Hi, and welcome to Mrs. Pam Reads The Magic Circle by Katherine Neville. In our last video, Ariel was trying to decide what to do with the post office piece of paper. Should she leave the manuscript in the post office and just hide the paper, or should she go get it? And then she got a phone call from some lady reporter from the Washington Post who actually told her a whole lot more about what she thought she knew than she really knew. So the manuscripts apparently are not about the mother, whatever her name was. They were about her aunt. Zoe, Z-O-E, I've been calling her Zoe. Anyway, so yeah, that was a whole surprise. We got a little bit of a family ancestry genealogy line there. And so she's not quite sure what she's going to do or what the heck is going on, or if her life is in danger or what. And so she went to bed. When all else fails, right? You don't know what to do, go to bed. Anyway, that's where we're going to pick it up. I awoke before dawn in a frantic sweat. I'd dreamed I was running, not upright, but on all fours, as fast as I possibly could through cane-like underbrush, so dense I could barely see. Behind me, I could feel the hot breath of a large, dark animal with ravenous, slathering jaws, its gnashing teeth snapping at me. I saw through the cane that I was coming to an open space of meadow with a wall just beyond. Could I cross it fast enough to leap up and escape the pursuing beast? I gave one extra push of power through my lungs, were already bursting. I crossed the patch of grass and leapt for the wall. Just then, I woke up and sat bolt upright in bed. Jason, her cat, who'd crawled into the bed and somehow wedged himself flat beneath me and the warm pillow, was lying on his side, his eyes shut tight. But his feet were paddling back and forth as if he were running to escape something fearful. Started laughing. "Wake up, Jason," I said, shaking him until he opened his eyes. How dizzy could you get, I thought, tuning into the dreams of your cat? But I had awakened with at least today's first decision resolved in my mind. I'd pick up the package from the post office. I had no other choice. I'd never recover it if I put it off and the damn thing vanished. Where to hide it was another question. My office wasn't safe. Too many people in and out all day. And until I actually saw the parcel, I wouldn't be sure I could even put all the documents in one place. A drawer or briefcase, for example, since it hadn't fit in my mailbox. When I went out, I was relieved to find that Oliver's huge borrowed truck was no longer blocking the drive, so I could back my car out without going off the side. He must have had to pick up Larry, the programmer, extra early. I pulled up before the post office about 10 minutes after they opened for the morning. Okay, so like in front of the post office. Okay. There were no cars yet parked in front as I pulled into the lot. I got out and nodded greetings to the postal worker who was scattering rock salt on the steps. Pounding of my heart in my head sounded from inside like a timpani section. Oh, sorry. Hooked on Latin American rhythms. Why was I so uptight? Absolutely no one here could have any idea of the contents of what I was about to collect. I went up to the desk and handed George, the postal clerk, my yellow slip. He went into the back room and came out carrying a large parcel, bigger than a ream of paper, wrapped in brown paper with twine tied around it. Sorry you had to come all the way down here to pick this up, Ms. Ben, said George between wide-gapped teeth as he handed it to me. He scratched his head. I'd have been happy to give it to that fellow you sent for it just now. But he said you lost the claim slip. I told him then you'd have to come in person or send a signed note that it was okay to give it to him. But I guess you found your claim slip anyway. I was standing there, deaf and dumb, as if all the sound had been shut off, as if I were in a glass jar. I held the package in my hands, not speaking. George was watching me as if maybe he should give me a drink of water or fan me or something. I see, I managed to choke out. I cleared my throat. That's okay, George. I had to come this way anyway. It's no inconvenience. I started for the door casually, trying to think of a way to ask the question I desperately needed an answer to. Just at the door, I found it. By the way, I said to George, I mentioned to a couple of folks to pick it up if they came this way, who finally came by, so I can tell the others not to bother. I expected him to say new fellow in town or some such, but what he said made my blood run cold. Why, it was that Mr. Maxfield, your landlord. His postal address is just down from yours. That's why I felt bad to be able to give him, not to be able to give him the parcel. But rules is rules. Oliver. The bottom fell out of my stomach. In my mind flashed the image of those truck high beams last night and the drive empty of anything but tire tracks when I left this morning. I tried to smile and thanked George. Then I went out and got into my car, and I sat there with the parcel on my lap. It's all your fault, I told it. I knew I shouldn't, but I had to do it. I reached into the glove compartment and pulled out the bone-handled deer knife I kept there that had never touched a deer. I cut the twine and pulled the paper open. I was desperate to know the brand of my hemlock before I had to drink it. When I saw the first page, I started laughing. It was written in a language I couldn't read, with letters that weren't even letters of the alphabet, though they did seem oddly familiar. I rifled through the rest like a deck of cards, about 2 reams of paper, and all alike, each page printed in black ink by the same hand. The pages were filled with feathery stick figures with little circles and bumps protruding here and there, like thorns dancing across the paper, like the symbols painted on an Indian teepee. What did they remind me of? And then I knew what they were. I'd seen them in a cemetery once in Ireland, where Jersey had taken me to visit her ancestors. They were runes, the ancient language of Teutons, 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 I'm going to say, who'd once lived all over Northern Europe. This bloody manuscript was written entirely in a language that had been dead for thousands of years. Just as that knowledge dawned from the corner of my eye, I saw the flash of something dark moving into the parking lot. I glanced up from the manuscript and saw Oliver walking across the pebbly salted ice, heading for my car. I tossed the manuscript on the passenger seat where it slid partly out of its wrapper, and a few pages fluttered to the floorboard, which I ignored. I was trying to jam the key into the ignition, but in my hysteria, I missed twice. By the time the engine turned over, he was almost at the passenger door. Frantically, I shoved down the door lock with my elbow, which caused all the car doors to lock in tandem as I threw it in reverse. Oliver grabbed the handle of the passenger door and tried to yell something through the window, but I ignored him and threw the stick forward. I tore out of the lot, dragging Oliver along until he finally let go. I glanced at his face for one instant before I took off down the street. He was staring through the glass at the manuscript. Now that I was out on the street driving, and I knew Oliver was really after the manuscript, and I knew he knew I had it, I was becoming even more hysterical. The chances of hiding it anywhere in town at this point were absolutely nil. I knew I had only one choice, and that was to get it somewhere out of town to hide it. But where? Oliver knew I was meeting my uncle at Sun Valley this weekend, so that was too obvious. I had to get on a road in some direction and fast before he got back to his car to follow me. The absolutely worst thing that could happen was for me to get trapped with this manuscript in my car. With no time to think and with no thoughts leaking into my brain anyway, I headed full speed down the road to Swan Valley to run over the Teton Pass into Jackson Hole. And that's the end of that section. So the next section is entitled The Snake. And we've got a little bit of time, so I'll just read this little poem. The Snake. The serpent. The serpent never dies. Someday you shall see me come out of this beautiful skin. A new snake with a new and lovelier skin. That is birth. Eve. I have seen that. It is wonderful. Serpent. If I can do that, what can I not do? I tell you, I am very subtle. When you and Adam talk, I hear you say, why? Always why? You see things and you say, why? But I dream things that never were, and I say, why not? And that was written by George Bernard Shaw in the book Back to Methuselah. We've heard that before, right? Without all that pretense and the serpent and the Eve part, but you see things and you say why, but I dream things that never were, and I say why not? That's a pretty famous quote. So George Bernard Shaw. All right, you guys, we're going to go ahead. We're at 13 minutes, so we'll go ahead and quit there and start the new section in the next video. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye.